Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint with you today. So today we are going to be painting another page in our watercolor journal books. I am actually only going to be painting a portion of a page in my watercolor journal today. So this is a quick PSA. You can paint just portions of your pages in your journal. You don't have to paint the whole thing every time or plan a painting for the whole page. So I'm going to be using this smaller section, and you can just divide yours however you'd like. Just to do a fun celestial night sky. It's going to probably be a little similar to the Aurora Borealis one that we did a couple of weeks ago, but a little bit more kind of fanciful and colorful, I think. I always love this. I'm sure you've seen paintings like this before, especially if you're on the YouTube watercolor universe, but I just love doing these, so I'm going to do one today, and I'm going to enjoy it. So it's okay to repeat things you've already done before, and to do them just because you enjoy doing them. Okay, so for this night sky, we're going to do a nice colorful but dark night sky, and then we're going to layer it with some stars with our bleed proof white and our handy dandy toothbrush. And lastly, we're going to put in our silhouettes. We're going to do some trees where we're looking up into the sky from down below. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to start by really just remembering, one, I'm going to play with color. I'm not going to be afraid to add lots of fun colors to this, but ultimately we're going to try to make it darker around the edges. I have phthalo blue here. I have this green is made with a little phthalo blue and green gold. I also have my Quinacridone magenta, and then I also have some cobalt teal here, although this cobalt teal looks like it has a little bit of an influence of that green in there. There we go. Cobalt teal, and of course, Payne's gray. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with my blue, I think, around the edges. I'm just going to dive right in, nice and juicy. I know I'm going to make these edges a lot darker with layers of trees and fun things like that. So I am going to, but I do want to preserve a little bit of a lightness kind of through the center. So I'm just going to do this. Now my blue I know is going to mix well with all these other colors. Okay, so I'm not worried about mixing with the magenta. It's going to make a purple. Mixing with the green, it's going to make a more of a blue-green. So just getting this kind of fun, swirly layer down. Let's throw in some magenta, and the magenta and the blue is going to make purple. Look at how that core paint moves. Ooh-wee. All right, and let's throw in some green in here. So this is definitely much more of a fanciful, you're not going to see this really in real life, anything like this in the sky. I'm going to try some of this cobalt teal. I've never put this in a sky before, in a nighttime sky before. I shouldn't say never in a sky. I'm going to put some more magenta down here, which is going to make purple. And now just pulling out some color as well. I'm going to throw some water in here. This is like a big kind of watery, fun mess. And now I'm going to mix some Payne's gray with my phthalo blue and start to add that to the corners. So this does require a little bit of a balance, not to go overboard. You're going to want to darken everything, but I want to leave some swaths of lighter color. That look almost like the celestial, those beautiful celestial photos that you see in outer space. Like, we wouldn't actually see this from Earth, but I'm going to pretend we can. All right, so I'm gonna let this probably dry. I'm gonna add a little more just to kind of set us up for our tree outline here. Payne's gray, so I'm just adding Payne's gray to the edges. And you can see it's starting to find its way in. So our trees, when we do them, just so you know, I'll just throw a few lines on here. They're going to come in from all sides. So they're always going to angle towards the center. So it's as if we're standing or laying even down on the forest floor looking straight up. So I'm just putting a few little sketched lines just to kind of give me an idea of where this is going. So you can see, okay? So we're going to be looking up at the sky this way. So we're going to let this dry. And then I'm going to go in and add my stars. And then on top of that, I'm going to add my silhouettes of my trees. So let that dry and then come on back so we can add in our stars, let it dry again, and then add in our trees. All right, we're back and we're all dry. So I have my bleed proof white here. This is always fun because it definitely adds some contrast, even to these lighter areas. I'm going to take some of this out and put it in the cap. Add a little bit of water to it. I just want it to get it flowing enough that it will splatter. Now, if you want to protect other parts of your journal, you're going to want to cover them up for any of this splatter. So I just have a piece of scrap paper here. You can use paper towel. I just have another piece of like a drawing or whatever here. I'm just going to move this stuff out of the way. I'm just going to lay this over top. Actually, let's do this. This one on this side, this one on this side. And that will protect. And even when you're doing the other stuff, like I was getting little drips and drabs everywhere, you can cover up the pieces you don't want to get messy. All right, so I'm going to take my toothbrush. I'm going to rub it in my white, bleed proof white here. I don't know if that's going to be enough. I might have to go, yeah, it's barely, I need more bleed proof white and a little more water. So I just dipped my toothbrush in some water, but I think I need more actual paint in there. It's going to be too thin. And this is a great way to get your fingers super messy, if that was what you were going for. Just dabbing that off a little bit. There we go. All right, I'm going to go crazy and just put in a huge, crazy star field. Okay, so you can see that I have 2 or 3 really big drips in the middle. You can wipe those off if you want or dab them with a brush. I'm just going to leave them the way they are and let them dry. Okay, so now you have to let this layer dry also. And a lot of this is going to be covered up. The most prominent part are on these darker areas here. We're going to cover a lot of that up with the silhouette of our trees, but I would say if you were to do this again, or if you haven't done it and you're just washing this through, you might want to try to get a darker swath of color somewhere closer to the center that isn't going to get covered up as much. That will help prop those stars up as something really dramatic. But this is going to work just fine for me. So I'm going to dry this again. I'm going to use my drying hand tool. This is a great little tool. Link in the description if you're looking for one. But great little heat tool. They get very hot, but they don't have a lot of velocity. So you don't want to get it too close to your paper because of the heat. It will start to burn your paper if you like leave it in one spot. So you're going to move it around quite a bit and let the heat dry the paint versus like if you use a hairdryer, you definitely can use a hairdryer. You just want it on the lowest velocity. So on low but high heat. But yeah, okay, I'm going to get started. All right, we're back and everything is dry. So I'm gonna first just make sure my brush is nice and clean from all that bleed proof white. I am gonna start, my hands are super messy. I'm gonna start with my size 4 brush. I'm gonna move this out of the way. Don't really need that anymore. I'm gonna get my Payne's Gray, my darkest, or if you have black, black will work nicely. And I am going to start to put in some actual tree trunks. So from the corners, everything's going to kind of angle itself towards the same central point. And this will take time to build this up, but things will be wider at the base, widest kind of in the center here. Working its way up. And don't worry, we're going to get all the tree parts on as well, like leaves and things like that. You'll have to decide what kind of trees you want, if it's more of a pine forest. You can just go from one side. I'm going to go more of the fish angle lens where it's really all the way around. But you could just do like wide angle lens looking up into the sky as well. And you are still going to see, depending on how much space you leave, you are going to see that star field that you put on like through the gaps in the trees. But it's important to put it on beforehand, otherwise you're going to be seeing stars on top of your trees. And they don't all have to be perfect, but pretty close. Like I have a little bit of few messed up branches that crisscross each other over there. Like a falling tree. And that's fine. All right, so we have most of our branches set up here. Now we could do pine trees, which, let me just give you a sample of that, would be like very thin at the top and getting much wider at the bottom. I think I'm actually going to give these like a canopy at the top. So I'm just going to go around kind of like this cloud-like kind of leaves. And again, I'm not trying to be too precious here. I'm just dabbing my way through. It's a weird perspective, an interesting perspective where things don't, they're very thin at the top and they get wider at the base or at the bottom. And I don't want everything to be a perfect halo circle. So I'm going to try to be mindful of that. and leaving space for things to kind of poke through. I'm going to put a few little spots down a little lower, but not, just to try to break up that perfect halo circle a little bit. But remembering to leave gaps and space through them. All right, and then we can also take our brush and we're going to take some other branches up through here, all heading in the upward direction and maybe peeking through a few spaces. Let me make some of these really tiny trees a little bit thicker. Again, they're all traveling upward and in the direction of that single point generally. There we go. All right, let's see what we have. And those nice clean edges really do it justice. There we go. So we have a nice little halo through the trees, through the treetops, looking down. Now again, like I said, you could just make it a wide angle where you're just doing the bottom and everything is coming up. But this is more of a fisheye lens, like laying on the forest floor, looking straight up. And sometimes those perspectives can be really unique and interesting. I am wondering if my bottom layer should even be a little bit thicker with black, but I'm going to leave it how it is. Otherwise I'm going to cover too much up and it's not going to be that interesting anymore. So I thought that was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out the description for links to supplies and materials that I use in this video, as well as all of the other supplies and materials I use regularly. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend who you think also might like to learn a little bit about watercolor. And I will see you on our next day of our next journal page. Maybe we'll do this other section. Maybe we'll head over here and do a whole full page. I don't know yet, but I can't wait to paint with y'all. Take care. Have a great night. Happy painting, y'all.